Right, so very quickly, guys, I'll be talking about uh, smart money traps. Okay, so what are smart money traps? Most times you enter a trade, okay, you have your very pretty setup. Let's assume we have something like this, right? Okay, you have something like this, and then you enter price at this point upon seeing your confirmation, right? And you're looking for other moves to the upside, but then price just rinses you out on your level of demand, even after seeing your confirmation and break of structure. Right? I don't know if any of you have experienced something like this before. You've seen something like this happen, or a setup like this, and then you're wondering why that setup did not play out. Okay, sorry, my voice is almost cracked, but I'll try to be as audible as I can. Okay, so the reason why most of those things do not play out is because they're actually smart money traps. Okay, and then even upon having a confirmation entry in a supply zone or a level of demand, they still fail because you are actually entering on a trapped area. You're actually trading off something I would love to call a trap zone. Okay, so most times we get involved in trading traps and then we are looking for miracles. We want price to just automatically begin to move in our directions, but we are trading the trap. Okay, so why do you think this setup will fail? Okay, I'll just draw a few setups on the screen. I think a friend of mine had discussed this topic recently, and then I realized I had not explained this with you guys. So I decided I would talk about this today. Okay, or sometimes you see, this is another scenario. Okay, you see another setup like this. And then you're expecting price to come in here, right, to buy. But price gets here, and then rinses you, irrespective of whatever equal low or build on liquidity that was stored before the region. Price still gets to that point and then takes you. Okay, I don't know if you've experienced anything like this before. Or should I give another instance? Okay, very, very popular price action. Let's say you have something, okay, let me use another trend. Let's say you have this going on, right? And then you have, okay. Then you have this and this, right? And then because of the whole build, oh, how did I clear that? Sorry, I'll just have to do that over again. Okay. All right. So these are just a few setups I think you should have encountered or you've seen. Can you hear the sound of the dog barking on my background?
Yes, we can.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
Where somebody will leave again. Okay, please just bear with me. Okay, so these are some of the stuffs you experience on the chat. Okay, I believe a few of us might have seen stuff like this happen, and then you're wondering why that amazing setup or that amazing zone would fail. Okay, the fact is that most times we are caught up in the trap because we have refused to acknowledge structure. It's as simple as that. Okay, any other thing I'll try to put up to this explanation is just because I want it to make sense. But the fact is that most times we are caught up in traps because we have refused to acknowledge structure. Okay, and then we are expecting a swift move of structural change, refusing to acknowledge the fact that an order flow is intact. Okay, and when the demand order flow is intact, the highs sustain the trend. When the supply order flow is intact, the lows sustain the trend. Okay, so we get into a nice demand order flow or a nice supply order flow where the highs are sustaining the trend. And automatically, because of a break of structure on our entry points or whatever supply level we are trading from, we totally ignore structure. Okay, now, if you watch the videos, I talked about protected liquidity and expected liquidity. When supply order flow is intact, these highs are the protected liquidities, right? Why these lows are the expected liquidity. Anything that forms in between this high to this low without clearing this low is only a build-up or an engineered liquidity that will be cleared. Okay, because the prevailing structure is lower highs and lower lows. So it means that as far as this guy stays here, he is in charge of the story. Okay, as far as this level of price stays here, he's in charge of the story. If price has touched this supply block before coming to this top, it's a different thing altogether. But once price makes its way up to the level of demand before heading for this area, 90% of the time it is to take out external liquidity. So most times we see a clear supply order flow printing lower highs and lower. And because of a series of price action that presents itself inside of this area, we are automatically looking for sales or buys from this level of demand, forgetting that we are in a supply order flow. And in a supply order flow, the respected liquidity is the top. The highs sustain the trend. The fact that price has tapped into a respected liquidity is enough reason to ensure that this low is going to be taken out. Why? Because this low has failed to clear this high. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, boss.
This low has failed, so clear this high. So anything, any setup you see inside of here would definitely be a trap. Simply because the prevailing structure is lower highs and lower lows. And then the supply, which is a protected high that is in charge of this trend, is still very much intact. Price had rallied back to that point. Okay, price has rallied back to that point and had mitigated this area perfectly. So after this mitigation, the only thing you should be looking out for here is a break of this structure, right? And expecting price to come into some areas here that would cause further down move to clear this external liquidity. If there will be a change in structure, price will first grab this external liquidity before now shifting to give you your structural narrative that you can now trade from. Okay, and then you're good to go. Do you understand that? The same thing applicable with this story. Irrespective of the double bottom here that makes this an actual nice order block to trade from or a demand block to trade from, it is still useless. Why? Why is it useless? It is because demand order flow, supply order flow rather, is still what? Intact. Okay, so price will just use this to engineer liquidity to convince you, that is the concept of inducement, to convince you that this area is vital enough, and then bet you in here, giving you your sort of confirmation entries. Okay, and then rinse before continuing after it had actually done its work from this area, because this is the actual grab on liquidity and this here is a break of structure. The same thing applicable to this other diagram on this area. Okay, demand order flow is still very much intact. This break of structure that happened here did not react off our demand level. Okay, and then after this had happened, price came aggressively to what? So touch into this area. If this happened at this point, just like this, and price did not get to the demand level, this would have been a very possible sell, only as a reactive supply to see price back to this level and then further to the upside. As a reactive supply, not expecting price to begin to clear all these lows in line with structure. The only time that will happen is when this structural point is now violated. If this structural point is violated, I can now begin to look for sales. But until then, demand order flow stays intact. So anything you'll be selling from this point is a mere inducement, because higher highs and higher lows. And then when demand order flow is intact, the lows sustain the trend. The lows sustain the trend. The lows become the protected liquidity. It means every other high that has existed before the low becomes an expected liquidity that should be cleared. So the only time I'll be willing to take price to come back into this area is when I have price move out of this place to grab liquidity. I can now look for sales back into this zone that will now give me new highs to clear new what? Expected liquidity. Does that make sense?
Yes, boss.
Okay, please.
Yes, sir.
All right, good. Can I clear all of this now? So we can look at the charts.
Yeah, of course.
All right.
Sure, sir.
Yeah, sure.
So let's look at, I'll get to what I just taught now. I will get to explain that on the charts, but since we're already on DXY, let's look at DXY to see what we're expecting for the week, and then know how we can rally from there. Okay. Now, this is what I think about DXY with respect to structure. Okay, this is the monthly time frame, and this is what I can see. Okay, this high to this low, to this high to this low, right? To this current high. Okay, and this current high is already sitting in this area, right? Now, some people are of the opinion that this area would be raised, okay? But then I personally, with respect to structure, I can only see a break of structure at this point in the downtrend. That's what I see here. I see a break of structure in a downtrend, coupled with the fact that the dollar is facing serious recession, but they have failed to admit it, but they cannot hold it back for so long. Okay, so they cannot keep being in pretense for so long. The dollar would certainly definitely fall. Okay, now taking out these highs automatically gives them the leverage to start a new trend. Okay, and if they're starting a new trend, then it means that they are not in a recession like we think they are in. So it means we are the ones who are at fault. Okay, because once this high is violated, the structure has changed, because like I said, in a downtrending market, the highs are protected, right? So the highs sustain the trend. If this is violated, we will now look for price to come into any of these areas and then give us further upward movements on the larger scale. This is my monthly time frame. Okay, now another reason why I think price would react off that area, this box on the DXY. I'll show you my confidence on Euro USD. Okay, just as we try to match price, what's happening on the DXY, and use the DXY to analyze Euro USD, it is the same way you can use them in tandem, because the DXY is a single price. Okay, it is a dollar. It is a dollar strength, the dollar basket. It does not have any competition on this chart. It is just the behavior of the dollar and what it is reacting to with respect to past, future, with respect to past prices, and then what had happened in the past. Okay, just the behavior of the dollar, just the what's the right word? I'm trying to get the right word for you guys. Just the price action concerned with the dollar. No competition, the dollar strength index. Okay, now when we look at Euro USD, we are looking at the dollar versus a different currency. So there is now a level of competition, or there's now competitiveness on the chart. But this is just a plain index of what the dollar is doing. And then it's already spelling the behaviors of a downtrending market already to us. Okay, so with the notion that I expect price to sell from this area, let us look at what we now have on Euro USD. Now, look at the chart on Euro USD. What is the price action on Euro USD? Right? Can you see that? Austin, please stay open so you can answer me when I ask questions, please.
Yes, I
Yes.
can see it perfectly well.
Yeah, just stay open so you can. Are you busy with something?
Not really.
Okay, if you're not busy, just stay open so you can answer
Is
me.
this court is going?
Okay, so you can answer me when I ask questions. The Bible says silence is the best answer for a fool. I know I'm not a very foolish person like that.
You can never be.
Okay, so now I just explained something prior to this, that in an uptrend, the lows sustain the trend. In an uptrend, in a demand order flow, the lows sustain the trend. Okay, so these lows are protected. Price is heading towards another protected low. So there is a very high possibility that we would sustain this higher high and higher low structure as against what we have on DXY. On the DXY, we just have a simple lower high and lower low structure. So we can see how this happen. Very possible. Do you understand that?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so but regardless of that, we are not trying to predict price. Okay, we are not. We respect the structure. With respect to structure, price is supposed to buy from this area, but it's not my responsibility to predict where price would buy from or where price should sell from. Okay, if I do that, then I'm not a trader. Sometimes we get too excited and then we just want to show progress and then we do all of those things. Okay, but then I don't expect that to happen here. I don't expect these levels to be taken out. But then if they're taken out, I would simply follow suit. That's who a trader is. As a trader, you are not married to a bias. You have a bias because of a level of expertise, but you are not married to a bias. So when you're looking at price, you should be saying, if price buys, I will do this. If price sells, I will do this. So I'm expecting Euro USD to either buy or sell. That's the monthly time frame. Let's drop down to a much more lower time frame. Now, the reason why I'm not dropping down to a much more lower time frame is because if I go back to my 4-hour time frame, there will be nothing to see. Okay, I can't see anything here. There's no price action here. Where is price reacting from?
Yeah.
Nothing I can see here. Okay, if I pinch and pinch and pinch, I would not be able to see anything here. Okay, because the only place available is this guy. Let's see if we can see the guy on the weekly. Yes, okay. The only place available is to look at this guy from the weekly perspective. Okay, and then this idiot cannot hold price because it's an unsupported base. That's where price is sitting right now. It can't hold price. Okay, price will have to definitely violate this week. Okay, this is a weekly time frame, so price will definitely violate this. Now, is it possible that we can see some sort of reaction of this block as a reactive demand level? Yes, but the essence of anything we'll be seeing here is to push us further and then bring us back down into these levels. Okay, so in this way, I'll be looking out for confirmations to see what I'll be doing from this level. But until then, we are heading for a particular direction. So any other thing I'm taking, any trade I'll be taking inside of this circle will just be something that can bring me back to this area, okay, where I should see a proper play on price action.
Okay.
Okay, so until then, I don't have too much to say on this chart. Believe me, there's no much to say on this chart. We just have a straight story. But then I'll just recap over. Okay, let's see GBP USD. I think I've not checked that in a while. GU and EU are positively correlated, so we should expect almost same story on all of them. All of them. Okay, now this is the price action here on USD. And then now we can have this range on GBP USD. Now, what did you observe between these two charts? Let me take out this. What did you observe between these two charts? I'll mark this. Let me make the work easy. GU is currently sitting on a weak low that will be cleared. Why is this a weak low and why will it be cleared? Lower highs and lower low. The highs sustain the trend. Okay, this was a previous break of structure before price came back to tap into this level. This area, this low did not grab liquidity from anywhere. It's just weak, it's straight down and then impulsive to the upside, failed to take out this high, right?
Yes, sir.
Good. Now, look at these points here. This is the monthly time frame. I don't have any other points below this point. So this is the lowest, right? And then it's
Yes,
an area that should be cleared. Okay, so this low should be cleared. Now let's marry this to what we see on EU. The same way EU is currently sitting on a what? On a demand zone that should be
Cleared.
even if it's on an uptrend, they still have to relate somehow. There has to be some kind of correlation between the both of them. So EU is sitting on a similar low, a similar demand level that should be cleared. So the only difference is that on GU, we have that level at the extreme because that is the blast block on GU. Okay, yeah. So what will definitely happen on GU is that GU will now grab liquidity from that block. Okay. Sorry, I have to just reshuffle between both of them. What will now happen is that GU will now grab liquidity from this block, right? That should now bet a new story. Okay, now why GU is trying to grab liquidity from this block and use the grab on liquidity to start a new story. Euro USD, instead of grabbing liquidity from the block, will move to its own extreme and now bets her own story because there's no need of going to grab liquidity below this block. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. So there's no long talk in all of those things. Let me not overbore you with all of this. We'll just review a few things from last week and then I'll take questions. I'm stuck on this particular pairs for now. Not for now. I think I'm stuck on this particular pairs for a very long time. So I'm trying my best not to, except you have questions on a few other pairs you'd like me to deal with, then that's fine. I saw something from last week. I was going to show you guys while I was back testing. I've gone to clear all my chats. Yes. Okay, it's all right. We'll just see how we can get that. I have 10 more minutes for this, and probably will send a new link for question and answers. I'm trying to get that area on the chat from what happened last week. Okay, everybody was expecting, lots of people were expecting price to buy from this level last week, right? And then anybody who was looking for buys from that level was just digging a trap for himself, because like I said, it's look at the order flow before you begin to trade. Okay, look at the order flow before you begin to trade. Right? The highs sustain the trend, not the lows. So the lows will definitely be rated until we have a clear shift in structure. As far as the 4-hour time frame is concerned, this is our 4-hour structural high. Okay, so any low that fails to take out this 4-hour structural high is a weak low. Okay, if this low had come to do this, then I'll look for actual positions to swing this to the upside. But until that happens, this low is a weak low. Okay, because it failed to fulfill its purpose. So any other thing that happens here is just to engineer more liquidity and all of those things that would invite you or induce you into taking this trade before flushing you out. Okay, that's just a typical example of a smart money trap. Okay, so there was no need to, I think from Wednesday last week, I was off the charts. I didn't trade Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then we had a lot of amazing moves, that happened over the course of the week. We could just try to trace a few of them. Probably we could just try to trace a few of them. Okay, and then see how we would have approached. While I was backtesting, I knew I saw some very amazing things that I would have loved to talk about. All right, great. I think this is one. Okay, this is actually that low I marked out from the 4 hours here, where every other person was expecting to sell from. Why? Because they had a grab on liquidity, right? And a break of structure, 5-minute structure, right? Which made that place a valid demand level. And then we had engineered this liquidity. If you remember on the other session, I talked about this low as an unsupported base and why it should be cleared. Okay, I also talked about willingness to buy from that area if I had seen a confirmation to buy from that area, right? Okay, so there was actually no reason to buy. Price did not present us with any sort of confirmation to buy from that area, because when price tapped into this level, okay, I think there's an amazing price action here we can study. What's happening? What just happened now? All right, there's an amazing price action here we can study. So let's just study the price action that happened inside of here and see how we could have utilized that price action, right? So I will just shift this back and then we'll use the replay tool and see how we would have addressed that. So basically, this was our last point of demand as a break of structure. The moment you see this zone failed, you would have been looking out for your flip zones, right? The moment you had seen that zone fail, you would have been looking out for your flip zones. And then if you had that in mind, then you were well to do on this setup. Because as the time I came online, I saw all of this had happened while I was backtesting, and then I wished I was trading within the time. Okay, so the essence of this move, should we go to the 1 minute time frame or should we just stay here? The essence of this move was to mitigate the last point of buy, okay, which was this. Right? And then it came back down to give us some sort of reaction after it grabbed these lows, which was now supposed to introduce the buys if this zone was supposed to be a valid zone. This was the actual grab on liquidity that would have sponsored the buys to the upside. Okay, so if I was trading at the time, I would have been in this buy from this point. Okay, personally, let me just cut this. Let me use the replay tool. Okay, and see if I would have seen any other thing on the lower time frame. All right, already for me, this is good. Okay, because this is some grab on external liquidity from what I just marked on the 5 minutes time frame. And then I have a break of this minor structure. Okay, for my intraday setup, I would have been in this buy already from here. Okay, for my intraday setup, I would have been in this buy already from here. And then my next point of liquidity where I would have targeted to hedge would have been from this area, because this is a grab on liquidity and shift of structure. So I'd have expected price to take out this high. And then once that high will be taken out, I would have been looking forward to hedging a sell position while I stay open. Okay, so that played nicely to that point. Let's see what happened after that. Okay, so at this point, I would have been stopped out already on this position with this just running. Okay, so this would have been a -1 arrow on this sales. Okay, let's just play for that and just see what price happened after that. There's a price action I saw on the higher time frame I'm interested in tracing. Okay, so let's pause this. Where did we get induced? Where did we get induced? Why did it come back up here? Why did price have to come back up here? So let's trace that story, trace that story, trace that story. All right, great. Can anybody tell me what you see on my screen? Why do you think price had to come back up here? Anybody? Nobody sees anything.
Sir, repeat the questions. Repeat the question.
This was a failed demand, right? You can see that, right? This was a grab on liquidity, right?
Yes, sir.
And this was already a shift of structure. Okay, so it means this was supposed to be my inducement leg if I was selling this thing. Okay, I would have expected this high to be taken out. And then when this high is taken out, I would have waited for confirmation on my 30 seconds or 15 seconds, as the case may be, so I can look for sales on this area. So yes, I would have not been in this sales aggressively because there's no setup here that brings me in. But then I should have seen the inducement from this area. This high was not supposed to be induced. So why did price still go up to induce this high or to liquidate this high? It is because here we have a grab on liquidity and a break of structure, right? So it means price was supposed to come back here and continue with the demand order flow, making this area the last point of demand, right? And this area failed to demand, okay? Got to this level and then gave us some sort of reaction, right? What was the last point of reaction that violated this level? The last up move before the down was what? This guy, right? So every other thing that happened inside of here was still within. So this was actually the demand. This was the last point of demand, okay? This was the last point of demand before they pushed to the downside. So the flip zone, this is the guy that now flipped price and continued aggressively. So when price came back up, he had to tap into, if I go to the 30 seconds, I would see definitely the actual liquidity area that was tapped into here. But let's just assume we are taking the full zone, so I don't bore you guys with too many price story. My intention for this video is not to do anything intraday. Okay, so we tapped that and then we shifted structure here. And then our sell was ready. Okay, and then our sell was ready from this point. Okay, you understand why that would have been my entry point, right?
Yes, sir.
Is anybody confused?
No, sir.
No, everybody's following, right?
So following you.
Where's my Pakistani brother? My brother from Pakistan. Can you?
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here, sir.
All right, you're following, right?
Yeah, bro.
All right, great. Right, I think this is less than a minute. We have less than a minute before this link expires. So I'll send a new link on the group right now so we can just join in and continue. I'll
Okay.
just deal with this and
Okay.
take a few questions very fast.
Okay.
All right.